Hello there, Ray here, and Mojang is going to do an update to one of these three biomes. And they're going to let us vote on which biome they're going to be updating. And the voting will be done live during the Minecon event, which is this Saturday, the 28th of September. And in this video, I'll be going over all the specifics about each of the biomes and what Mojang says that they're going to add to each of these biomes if they do update them, as well as use my 10 years of playing Minecraft experience to foretell what other additions we might get with each of these biomes. So over the past week, they have been releasing short clips of each of these three biomes, being the Badlands, the Swamp, as well as Mountains. The first one that they released was the Badlands, and these are also known as the Mesa as they have switched the name over. And for the Badlands, they have offered tumbleweeds, which are dried up weeds that break away and get blown across the land as large spheres. They also showcase a new type of cactus. The new type of cactus kind of looks like a prickly pear. Instead of being very straight and slender, most of the cactus is kind of paddle shaped, with these paddles kind of connected together. They also say if they do the Badlands, they're going to introduce vultures, which in real life are scavengers that eat dead animals. And they said the vultures will come down and pick up loot from dead players. The next biome that they showcased was the swamp biome. They said the swamp will come with a mangrove forest, which are trees that grow in a very dense cluster. They also said that they're going to add boat with chest already hooked onto them. And they said they're going to add frogs into swamps. The final biome that they showcased was the mountain biome. With it, they said they're going to introduce thicker snow that is extra deep. They also said they're going to introduce a new mob being the mountain goat. They said they're also going to add jagged cliffs to the mountains, as well as snow-capped peaks and splendid views. So these are the three biomes that you get to choose from, but only one is going to be updated in 1.15 alongside what the main theme of 1.15 is going to be about. So this is not what 1.15 is going to be all about. This is just kind of a side project that they're also going to release with it. Now if you guys remember last Minecon, they offered the same thing where they gave us three biomes and they asked for us to vote for which order would they update these biomes in. And the three biomes that they offered us last year was the Savanna, Desert, and Taiga. And as you guys might know, the taiga did win, and we got foxes and berry bushes, but they never ever went back and updated the savanna or the desert biome like they said they were going to. And it's kind of disappointing to hear that they're not actually going back and updating the desert or the savanna, as both those biomes seem like they could use an update, but instead they're giving us three completely new biomes to choose from. And this time it sounds like they're only going to actually change one of them. So I'm going to talk about the advantages of each of these biomes if they get chosen. The first one I want to talk about is the mountains, which have previously been known as the Extreme Hills. Now, Extreme Hills seem like a more appropriate name as these aren't much of a mountain. If we open the seed in an amplified world, we can actually see what amplified mountains look like. They actually look more like true mountains than what we see in the default Minecraft world. As the world is high as 256 blocks tall, it seems appropriate that the mountains in the game should be that tall or pretty close to it, as coming across something like this would be so much more impressive inside of Minecraft default world, rather than the very small extreme hills now known as mountains. They also said that they're going to introduce jagged cliffs as well as snowy peaks, which would make them look more realistic like mountains you see in real life, as even the ones here in Amplified World have very kind of flat tops. And in the background of the image that they showed some really cool, super steep, tall mountains with clusters of snow all the way around them. And mountains in real life have a lot of different variations on them, from the very peak all the way down to the very base. There's a lot of different types of climates, and different stuff grows at different climates. They also said that they're going to offer deeper snow on these mountains. Now at first you might think that they're just going to come in and put in like blocks of snow up here instead of having snow layers like they do right now. Similar to what you would see like ice spikes. But what it seems like they're actually going to do is make a new type of snow which the player can sludge through, very similar to that of like a cobweb. So think of the snow being like a cobweb where the player has to like go through the deep snow, so he's moving very slowly. Maybe twice or three times the speed of like a cobweb, so it slows you down some where it's noticeable but not as slow as a cobweb. And think of this really deep snow that maybe even covers up your entire body as you're moving across the mountain. That'd be pretty epic to see. And Sweden, the country where Minecraft main development team is at, has some very stunning mountains. So it'd be cool to see them take some inspirations from them and add them into Minecraft. And they also said that they're going to introduce a new mob being a mountain goat, which would be somewhat similar to the sheep, except mountain goats would of course be kind of wild if you think of them similar to like deer, and they would also have horns and would be very quick, as most mountain goats are known for being quick and being very agile at traversing the mountains. So the goats might have the ability to be able to jump up instead of one block at a time like most mobs, they might be able to jump up 2 blocks. They also might be able to fall farther before taking full damage. When killing them, you might also get something different than just mutton like you would get from a sheep. They may also provide you with some horns. And mountain goats, being goats, are also known for bunting, so they might even come in and try to attack you with their head down, trying to bunt you with their horns. Now in elementary, I actually did a report on mountain goats, so it's kind of cool to see if they come into the game of Minecraft. They seem like a very fascinating animal as they live in these environments which pretty much nothing else will live. In their image, they also show a bunch of caves inside of the mountains. Now it is possible for caves to come up inside of extreme hills, but it's definitely not as common as the caves they see under the ground. I think it'd be really cool to see the entire mountains riddled with caves that go from up here in the peaks all the way down to the caves down below. I also think it'd be cool if they would introduce something like a mountain troll that would be inside of these caves, and maybe even have some of the caves be kind of furnished, like there's campsites just inside of the cave. But last year when they did this voting, they really only introduced the things that they talked about in the video. They didn't add any extra stuff. But one other thing they did talk about in the video about the mountains is the breathtaking views. Currently, if you're on top of a mountain and if you're looking kind of down into the rest of the biomes below you, a lot of them get fogged out pretty close if your settings are just normal. So maybe if you get on top of the mountain, maybe the fog kind of pulls away so you can see much farther. And if you're at the very bottom of the mountains, it would look pretty amazing to see these massive mountains from way down here, even if you're a little ways away from them. And you're looking up to them to see these amazing peaks and stuff, similar to what you see in real life mountains. And as the mountain moves up to the top, maybe you see kind of different types of environments in between, like some trees kind of at the lower pieces, and then eventually there's like no trees, and then it's just like rock and then like just snow. But currently we're just kind of left with these pathetic looking mountains. Even this flat area in here is considered a mountain. Now there is a couple different variations of mountains. So this here is the wooden mountains. Got some more trees kind of sitting on top of it. And over here is the gravelly mountain. Notice there's quite a bit more gravel on the very top of it. There's also Gravelly Mountains Plus, also known as Modified Gravelly Mountains, and that's what you see right here. It kind of has these large areas. They're also supposed to have slightly taller peaks than most mountains, but still not very impressive as what it could be if you're expecting to see a mountain in Minecraft. Like this peak here only goes up to about 125, where the world limit is at 256, so you could double the height of this peak. And think how what an epic mountain you could have if you did that. But these aren't the only mountains that are in the game. If you look at a mist, which is a tool that shows you different biomes, now there is other types of mountain variant biomes. And if we use a tool called a mist, it can actually show you all the different biomes according to a seed, and you can go ahead and also select special biomes. So these are very rare biomes that have a M after their normal name. So this is like savanna with the M after it, and this is desert with the M. A lot of times people refer to these as mountains, like a mountain variant of a desert or plateau. As most of these biomes that had the M's were also a bit taller than the normal biomes that they represented. But Mojang later changed their name. Instead of having the M, they put the word mutant after it, which makes a bit more sense because some of these biomes are not necessarily tall, but they're more broken up and mutated in such a way. Now stuff like the Desert M got changed over to Desert Lake. And even more recently, they have removed the mutant variations of quite a few biomes altogether, and have switched them over to be hills instead. So if they do update the mountains, they're not going to update any of these other variants that we used to associate with the mountain types. And it was upsetting to see them kind of remove some of these mutated biomes in the world, as it kind of brought a little more life to the game, as they were a bit more rare than the other biomes, as you can see. But if they would come in and update the mountains, then it would bring back that kind of natural feel of seeing a biome that really sticks out from the rest of them. Now we're going to look at the next option, which is Badlands, which also were known as the Mesa, which come with a lot of different variations. There's the normal Badlands, which are kind of these flat areas with the red sand. There's also Badlands Plateaus, which are the ones that are kind of elevated upwards. Then there is the modified variations of Badlands Plateau, which come with smaller plateaus but harsher terrain around them. There's also wooded Badlands Plateaus, which are the ones that have trees growing on top of them. And there's also a modified version of those as well. The most noticeable is the eroded Badlands, which are the ones that used to be called Bryce Canyons. And over here you can see them. They're like the really cool looking ones that are extremely steep with a lot of different variations and colors all in one area. And they kind of represent the Badlands that have been eroded by quite a bit, so that there's just left with these really steep spikes sticking out of the ground. And in this biome, they also offer about 3 new changes. The first one being a tumbleweed that tumbles across the ground. And currently the closest thing we have is these dead bushes here, or shrubs. And a tumbleweed doesn't seem that interesting, except they said that they're going to be tumbling across the ground, which would be really cool to see in Minecraft. I'm not sure how they would make a block kind of tumble throughout the world, and what would happen if it ran up against another block. Would it just keep on going over it and continuing onwards? It most likely wouldn't actually be a physical block, but instead like an entity similar to like an ender crystal. The tumbleweeds really don't have that many features in real life. They usually just roll across the ground and kind of distribute their seeds as they're moving. And if they run into like a fence, they just pile up there and you'll have huge piles of tumbleweeds up against fences. So I'm not sure what kind of features would a tumbleweed actually bring to the game. I'm sure you could take it and burn it in a furnace, similar you could do with these shrubs. And tumbleweeds really don't cause any damage. It wouldn't be like a moving cactus that when it ran into stuff, it would hurt them or anything. I'm curious what you guys think tumbleweeds will bring to the game, if they have any other features than moving across these flat areas. Next thing they showed for the Badlands is a prickly pear looking cactus. So instead of having a cactus that just goes straight up like this, it's one that stays kind of lowish and then has a bunch of sort of like bunny ears coming out the sides. So it look a little something like this, but a whole bunch of more of these cactuses growing out to the sides. And in the image you can see they have like little flowers, so they look very like prickly pears, which is kind of a fruit that you can get off of a cactus and you can actually eat it. You also can eat cactus too. Just like most things, it actually has quite a few uses if you're in a desperate situation. Other than the fruit that will probably come off of these prickly pears, they will probably also offer us the ability to take damage if you press up against them. Now with their complex shape, it's most likely they're going to try to fit them into a single block, and it may turn out being very similar to like the bushes that they currently have in the game. So the berry bushes, they're kind of all in one. So if we would put down one of these, you can kind of see how the model is kind of complex, but it's all inside one block. And if you grow them up, you can kind of see how they have multiple sides, but the fruit and everything is all inside of one block. So it might come out being a really complex model with tons of different sides, but all inside of one block. Or it could be similar to like a coarse plant where it kind of grows and branches outwards. But prickly pears are actually cactuses that kind of stay down lowish, and they're not like the big cactuses that go really tall and straight. Now if they are a complex model, they could provide us ability to kind of get the same effect as a cactus here, but maybe with less restrictions. As you guys know, you can't like stick a block right beside a cactus or it will just break off. So maybe these new cactuses will have less limitations so you can do more stuff with them. Maybe you can stick them inside of really tight areas to make mob farms and stuff like that. Now the last thing that they showed is a vulture. Minecraft does have a couple different birds in the game, like parrots and chickens, but like the parrots really don't fly that much in the game. They fly a little bit, but they can always come down and sit once again. Where vultures will actually fly long periods of time in the sky looking for food. They are scavengers, so it's not sure. So maybe if you were to breed them up, they would eat something like rotten flesh. But they are wild, so it might not be possible to breed them up at all. Now they said the vultures will come down and pick up dead players' loot. So I'm thinking any loot actually on the ground they'll probably pick up. So any items like this, they would come down and pick it up. And it might be very similar to like the dolphins where they kind of hold it in their mouths. But they're really only able to pick up that one stack that you see there. So the player dies and drops a whole bunch of items. If it's like a dolphin, it'll only pick up one of those stacks. But maybe the vulture will be able to pick up all the items. Now this feature is kind of interesting, but it don't seem like it can be used too often, as the Badlands aren't somewhere where people go too often. And if you would die here, it would be pretty rare compared to many of the other biomes that you just visit more often and are more likely to die in. And you would have to die on the surface, most likely because the vultures would appear. If you died like in a cave, a vulture is not going to come down there and pick up your loot. And if you would end up killing vulture, it'd probably be very similar to like we see with parrots and chickens, they just drop feathers. Now also in the image with the desert, they show a little bit of a cave underneath of like the vulture and the cactus. So maybe they're also going to add some caves that are closer to the surface, but we already do have the mine shafts here, and then we got natural caves which can come up to the surface. The Badlands are kind of a cool biome. They're just not visited that often unless you're trying to collect terracotta. And in real life, most Badlands don't really have that much there to start out with. Now with the past biome vote, it seemed that it wasn't too difficult for them to really come out with the two new features that they added in 1.14, the fox and the berry bush. Both of them did have quite a few cool features to go with them, as the fox could do a lot of different things as well as the berry bush. And I'm just not seeing that many features that they can put into these three features that they're going to add if the Badlands get chosen. I don't feel like most people come out to Badlands to get these new things. The Tumbleweed probably is the most interesting out of the three of them, wondering how they're going to make it work as what is it exactly going to do in the game. Last biome that you can vote for is the swamp biome. Now swamps already have quite a few different things that they offer to people that go into them, as they have witch huts that come here that are specific to this biome, as well as slime spawning on top of the ground. So it said that they're going to offer mangrove trees if swamps are chosen, and these are really dense trees that grow really close to each other. I'm not sure how they're going to pull this off in the game of Minecraft. Everything's sort of like a big huge block, so maybe they'll make one block look like tons of smaller trees, as the trunks of mangroves are quite small compared to a lot of these other trees we see here. And they have tons of roots that are coming into the water, but they are known for growing in briny water or like salt kind of water. They often grow along coastlines as well. Now if they did bring these into the game, it would probably be so dense, it'd be similar to like a bamboo forest that they currently have in the game, being extremely dense, making it hard for players to kind of traverse it. But in their image, they just kind of show the same swamp tree here, but they just call them mangroves. And they kind of illustrate all the roots coming off them as these kind of clumps that come off the edges of them. So maybe there'll be some root blocks that also come with them if they're introduced into the game. It'd just be a huge block matted of roots. But other than that, they look like the normal swamp trees that we have right here, with the vines coming off them and the leaves and shape looking very similar to those. And mangroves actually don't produce any fruit, so you wouldn't really get any fruit if you broke the leaves of them. But it would provide probably a new type of log block in the game. The mangroves are actually really small pieces and they're not very straight. And I have heard you guys say that you're hoping that it would come out with a new type of wood texture, which it could be, but they don't look that interesting. As the tree with the bark on kind of looks whitish, and the planks would be reddish, very similar to like acacia. But maybe they'll do some cool texture on the log so it looks very different than what we currently have in the game right now. The other thing they showed is a boat. And the boat has a chest on it, so the boat looks kind of similar to this color, but it has a chest in the second slot here. I say you can use these boats so you can cruise around the ocean, and then when you come to like shipwrecks or underwater ruins, you can go ahead and loot those treasure chests down there and put them into your chest on the boat to hold more loot. It's kind of interesting because it's going to be a container similar to like minecart chests, which are actually not used very often at all. They're just not very useful and they're kind of cumbersome, and there's a lot of properties to do with minecarts in general that cause a lot of problems. Currently right now the boats are kind of messed up. As you can see, they're kind of teleporting all over the place, but in general boats are not that useful for transporting items. This wouldn't be like a new method for transporting items around your world by putting loot into a chest and then trying to have water push it around. But it would be interesting to see if you could like automatically fill these chests with like a hopper and you could take the items out using like another hopper underneath. But most likely they're going to be very similar to a donkey or like a mule with a chest on it that you can't use hoppers to interact with it. Just as people really don't use mules or donkeys anymore with their chests to store stuff, now that we have ender chests as well as shulker boxes, it's so much easier just to use those than to try to go to a chest. Don't matter if it's on a minecart or on a boat to get your items. It'd definitely be something for early game, maybe people that just started the world. They chop down a tree, they make a boat, put a chest on it, then they sail around the ocean and pick up loot. The other problem is there is quite a bit of loot that you can get from the oceans, and a chest really just doesn't offer you that much. I have seen a lot of people fill up their inventories very quickly with the loot from the oceans, plus they got the other starter gear. But at some point, even with a chest, you'd have to start not picking up some of it or either returning and dropping it off. Now, when I first seen the image, I thought it was like a little teeny furnace minecart on the boat. I thought it was going to be like a steam-powered boat, and I thought that was really cool. But as soon as it said it's just a chest, it just really didn't seem that useful, other than super early game where people are trying to grab the best loot around the area just by quickly going out into the oceans. Now, they did come out with a steam-powered boat. That would be pretty fascinating, similar to like the furnace-powered minecarts, which aren't hardly used as well. I really feel like they need to do a minecart update and update the way minecarts are used in the game. As I made a video like 3 years ago showing these problems with minecarts, and still nothing has been done with them. With a steam-powered boat, I'm not sure exactly how it would work. I guess player would still have to steer it. It would just automatically go forward. It just seemed like a cool idea to have a steam-powered boat. Maybe it could be like a tugboat and pull other boats behind it as well. Now they also introduced a new mob in this biome, just like all the previous ones. They said they're going to introduce frogs. Frogs would bring a lot of kind of life to the swamp, be kind of like an ambient creature, similar to like a parrot, but parrots actually have quite a few uses. You can tame them and stuff. But just think a bunch of frogs hopping around here. I guess it's very similar to like having slimes. Slimes kind of do the same thing. They hop around and they're green as well. So I guess it'd be kind of like having slimes, but they actually are passive and they won't attack you. But yeah, slimes are also in the swamp, and I guess frogs are as well. So you got two things that are green and hop around in the swamp. Now frogs are just kind of more of an ambient creature, so they might not drop anything at all. If something, they would probably drop like frog legs, which in some places they eat frog legs. And of course, the frogs would try to eat insects, but there really isn't insects in the game of Minecraft. So maybe you see them in the world, but you can see their like tongues extend and try to grab something, but nothing really there. Just more of something that looks kind of nice inside of the swamp biome. Also in the far back of the image, you can see a witch hut. And it looks like a typical witch hut. I think the most fascinating thing if swamp gets chosen is probably the logs. I'm not much of a builder, but I know people that do building are really looking for new block types. So I think if any of the biomes actually bring in some new block types, people will probably be excited. The cactus will be a new block type, but it probably won't be used as much as like a log block. And the super deep snow will be kind of interesting, especially as a technical aspect, but I'm not sure if builders will enjoy it as much as having like some new slabs or new stair types. Out of the 3 biomes that they're offering us, it definitely seems that mountains are going to offer us the most, just because mountains currently in the game are just so bland. And like I said, they used to just be called Extreme Hills, and even though they changed the name to Mountain, they really haven't made them look much of a mountain at all. Especially since they changed the world limits, so now it's 255 instead of 128. They really haven't made mountains go as high as they could have. Now when they did the taiga update, they really just added those 2 mobs, and they really didn't change the actual biome itself, which is similar to what they're offering for the Badlands. They're just doing some small aesthetics things to the Badlands as well as the swamp, so just some small little features. But what they're offering for the mountains is actually quite different. They're actually offering a whole generation change, having extremely high peaks and splendid views of the area around it, and splendid views. It just seems like they're offering way more with the mountains than the other 2 biomes. I'll let hear what you guys think. What biome do you think offers the most? Do you think there's something in each of these biomes that I didn't cover that they may add? Or do you think they're just going to kind of stick with what they show in the video and not add anything extra? It'll be interesting to see which biome wins this Minecon. And as most people that are watching Minecon aren't like technical Minecraft players, they'll probably go for whichever mob they think is the cutest. Of course, Vulture is very cute. Frogs are pretty cute, but some people might also be kind of disgusted by them. And mountain goats, some people might find those cute. I definitely think that's how people voted with the taiga one. They definitely thought the fox was really cute, so they voted for that one. I guess that's also another point, as the mountain goats will probably be able to be bred up. There will be also baby mountain goats, which are called kids, so it'll be these cute little baby kids. It's unlikely that frogs or vultures will have babies, but they could. But with the mountain goat, we kind of already have an example, which is a sheep, and yeah, the babies are pretty darn adorable, so you can think what a baby mountain goat would look like. Dang, this baby, he's hungry, man. He just ate like 7 times. How many grass you have to eat there, baby sheep? Look at that, he's eating again. That might be a bug. He just keeps eating grass. Now, to participate in the vote, it is going to be live, so they're going to probably give about like 5 to 10 minutes or maybe even a half hour for people to vote. During the Minecon event, which is on the 28th, they're going to be talking about the new 1.15 update, and then they're going to kind of break away and then say, hey, we're going to start up the voting process. And at that point, people can start to do the votes. Last year, what they did is they gave us 3 options, and then they let everybody vote on all of them. And then the one that did the least, they went ahead and kicked out, and then they just paired the 2 finalists together, and then whichever one got the most, they made the winner, and that was the one that they updated. Now, Minecon is going to be streamed live. I'll put the information down in the description so you guys can watch it this Saturday. It was a lot of fun speculating which biome is going to be chosen, as well as looking into each of the biomes, seeing what they offer. If you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to go ahead and give it a like, as well as share with others, so they can learn about the biome vote and also participate in the Minecon voting. And I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!